Hello and welcome to Misaal. My name is Zahid and I'm your host. On this podcast, I talk candidly with the most innovative minds working towards building a better startup economy in Pakistan. In this episode of the Misaal podcast, I invite you to listen in on my conversation with Ariba Shahid. She covers business and economy for profit, and she is a Pakistan contributor for Deal Street Asia, reporting primarily on startups and venture capital. We discuss her recent article covering startup funding in Pakistan, factors attracting foreign investors, the Wapistani effect, innovative product based startups, and what's in store for the ecosystem in 2022. Let's listen in. Hi, Reba. Welcome to the Misal podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I've been great. What about you?
Sure. Thank you. I'm doing well.
No
I was just
worries.
watching State Bank of Pakistan has a live thing going on right now where they're talking about digital
Yeah.
banking. Yeah. So I was just watching that. I'm thinking about you because you and Dr. Raza Bakir, you guys have spoken in the past and you've interviewed him, and so that was just interesting. I thought I should mention that so we could also talk about that. Once we talk about the main reason I wanted to talk to you, which is the startup funding. So first of all, congratulations on your first article on Deal Street Asia.
Thank you.
I was not able to read the article; it's behind a paywall, but I have an idea about what it has because I
Yeah.
for Tech Shy I covered the same things. But I would love to hear from you what you found out while researching, the article. Was some things that you could highlight or just summarize the article for some of us who did not read it? And I can, of course, link it to in the show notes. I can link to the article.
Okay, so yeah, Reza Bakr is apparently my best friend. No,
Yes,
he's not.
yes,
He's not.
yes.
But uh, so this is really interesting. In November, we got the chance to interview him about the monetary policy and the inflation and everything. And when before the interview starts, he goes like, "You guys should really look at the stuff that we're doing for startups, the stuff that we're doing for fintech, and you should really look at that as well."
Okay.
And he's like, we feel that that should also be part of the conversation. So I like that. I like that,
Yeah,
moving beyond just talk about macroeconomics. So I like that what he's doing right now, what the whole panel is talking about right now. It's
yeah,
refreshing in a way.
yeah.
But if we talk about the article, so the article is a basic summary of 2021. We've heard from everyone, like everyone in the community is excited about how amazing 2021 was, and the cliches, the things that have been said over and over again, that there was more funding in 2021 alone compared to 5 years before that. There was massive funding in the e-commerce sector specifically, followed by fintech. If you talk about in terms of numbers, if in terms of funding, but if you talk about in numbers of deals,
Yeah,
fintech was number one in terms of deals.
yeah,
So you've got 81 deals in 2021, which is great. And the fact is the quantum, the size, $350 million coming into the country, not coming into the country, like coming into the ecosystem is
correct. Yeah,
really exciting. Is actually really exciting. And you know what? It's just like, it's just showing you a trend. Like if you look at it, like 2019, when we had like 34 deals, then we had like 48, and then we jumped
yeah,
up to 81. So it's a huge exponential growth that we've seen, right? And it's just that, this is just the beginning. Like the party's just begun.
yeah,
We've come of age, but the
yeah,
party's just begun in the sense that um there's so many things that are happening right now. And before we move on to the things that are happening, it's just nice. The ticket size has gone up to like 5.3 million on an average. So so that shows you that, we've got big names coming in as well. We've got major VCs coming in, people that do not really take Pakistan or Southeast Asia. The whole thing is people that were not interested in the subcontinent, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, they're investing in Pakistan at a time when we used to go like positive Pakistan. It's nice to see people taking
yeah.
Pakistan seriously.
So, what do you think has happened in the past, like, I don't know, since 2019, 2020? Like, what is one factor that you think that suddenly the attention is now towards Pakistan and globally the venture funding has gone up? It was record-breaking year. Pakistan, of course, is not like it wasn't left behind with this wave. So, what do you think was one of the factors that maybe investors want to look into Pakistan and say, hey, we would like to make a bet?
the cliches again, like 220 million population, 22 median age, these things work, right? But there's more to Pakistan than these statistics, because
Yes.
the 220 million population, how many of those are in your target market? That matters. But yeah, Pakistan's been too big of a market to ignore for long. And I feel that the first wave of startups that came in, the fact that they were, successful somewhat in penetrating into the market, like let's say Uber Cream, Food Panda, Daraz, whatever, the way they've grown in Pakistan, that gives a strong, signal to incoming investors. And then when you move on, Pakistan has managed to show that there is somewhat stability. I don't know, like if you look at Pakistan over the past few years, we've always had the fear that a government's going to leave, things are going to be unstable. You never know
Yeah.
when there's going to be a martial law in Pakistan's case. That's not really
Yeah.
the case right now. We're showing long-term stability as well, and we don't really take this into account, but it does matter a lot, especially for a foreign VC, or especially for any foreigner that's walking into a country. It's like, how safe am I here? How safe is my
Yeah.
investment? How safe are the conditions that are being shown to me? Like, are they consistent? Are they going to continue? So that's happening. But it's a big market. There's so many people that are using cell phones. Like, we're sixth largest by hours spent on apps, which is
Yeah.
really interesting, because you think of Pakistan, you don't think of the fact that they've got, like, you don't think that everyone has like a mobile phone, but the fact that the people that do, that use it exclusively, they use it excessively, that's
Yeah.
interesting. And also another factor that is really important is I hate the word, and I don't know if you hate it, but I hate the word Wapistanis, because I
I
just
don't, I don't hate the word, but I can think of a alternative to use for people who are, coming back. And okay, so for those of you who don't know, the definition of Wapistani is someone who is outside Pakistan but comes back to Pakistan for economic reasons. A lot of VCs are actually focusing a lot more on people or founders who are Wapistanis.
yeah, so I have nothing against Wapistanis. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear.
So,
I
so
just don't like
what
how
would what would be another word for them? Nicopians? Like, I don't know.
I don't mind the term. I like the term. The term's really nice. It's fresh. I like the term. I just don't like the fact that they go like, "You're coming back to save Pakistan," because
Yeah. So the
I did not
savior
ask you to
complex.
save me.
Yeah. So yeah, that bothers me too. It becomes uncomfortable, right? Like you start to feel like, okay, someone koi ehsan kar raha hai aap pe. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. So
Yeah.
so that is my only problem with the few people, not
Okay.
everyone, but the few people that use this term, as a savior complex tool. That's my only issue. So but the fact is, the Pakistanis are a huge factor.
Yeah.
And if you look at Investor Innovate's report, 87% of all funding that has, that startups have received have gone into a startup where there is at least one founder that is foreign
Yes.
educated. So
Right.
that just shows you how important Wapistanis are for the ecosystem right now. And maybe, hopefully, moving on, once the Wapistani wave is successful, investors will realize that the local potential is there as well. And we'll see another wave where locally started startups with local founders are going to get massive funding, hopefully.
So, I mean, with all this talk about like, foreign VCs funding, like very much kind of copy paste ideas from other countries because, they realize, okay, if it works in one market, their portfolio companies are doing the same thing on the other market. So the same startups, the same business models would scale the way they are scaling in other countries. So there's a lot of that going on. In your experience, have you seen anyone doing something like different than something that's not typical e-commerce or typical fintech? Like, I would love to see a Zoom competitor, right? For example, a founder who's working on solving that problem for a market that is maybe not, they're not looking for as something as advanced, but something that works in the local markets.
It's really interesting. Like when we think of startups, we think of, e-commerce, fintech, like fast commerce, things that we use on our phone apps, right? But
Yeah.
I like, where Adams is a startup, right?
Yeah.
And we don't really see things like that emerging in Pakistan, like, as people don't really consider those startups. But recently, like just yesterday, I was talking to someone and they were telling me about their startup where, they've got security systems. You know how like homes have security
Yeah.
cameras and monitoring, right? So he's
Okay.
like, that's my startup. That's my startup. I've got funding. I've got things sorted out. I'm profitable from my 6th month in operation. We're
Okay.
going to expand. We need more funding for that. But it was nice to see someone solving a local problem. So I found that interesting. A few days ago, I saw another startup. I visited them, and they were doing BNPL. And in
Okay.
Pakistan, most BNPL startups use credit cards,
Okay.
credit or debit cards. These guys do not use any formal banking for the BNPL, which
Okay.
I found really interesting. Like they were like, we've tweaked our whole model just for Pakistan. So there are people out there that have realized that just because something works in a different market doesn't mean it works in Pakistan. A lot of startups have come out there. The incubation centers that we're seeing, they're making a lot of things, so that's important. As far as tech side, like a Zoom competitor is concerned, I really like Teladoc as a WhatsApp competitor, and not
Yeah.
just a WhatsApp competitor, but they're going into payments as well. They're
Yeah.
going, all over the place, and they're expanding to become, the app to use to communicate. So that's also interesting, and the fact that they introduced stickers, and then after that, WhatsApp was flooded with stickers. I find that interesting as well. So that was
Yeah.
nice innovation.
What do you think? So, State Bank of Pakistan did few things in the past couple of years that have helped startups significantly. Is there something that you would like to highlight that you feel that State Bank of Pakistan did that really helped startups?
So yeah, there are a few things that the State Bank has done. One is, for the longest time, they created a really nice environment, even during COVID. So
Okay.
just talk about the macro before we talk about the regulations. Um, During COVID, the macroeconomic support that they provided to Pakistani businesses in general was just great. It was very encouraging. It showed that we're pro business. So it was a good time to be in the in the business in the business community. The business community was really happy with the state bank. You would get
Yeah.
loans so that you wouldn't have to fire your employees during the initial crunch. You're
Yeah.
getting loans to bring in machinery, to bring in tech, things like that. So it was a good time. And 7% interest rates, massive support. The State Bank was
Okay.
doing all it could to encourage businesses out there. And, it worked. So we saw a really nice growth rate as well during COVID. So that's good. But other than that, if we talk about the regulations, the State Bank's done things that it should have done a few years ago, but they did it. They're allowing people to set up their holding companies abroad. They're allowing startups to raise debt, convertible debt. So things like this are, really important. Things like these are really important to encourage startups. The fact is, yesterday alone, startups met with the Prime Minister, and over there were reps of the FPR, the SECP, and the State Bank, and all the startups, had their complaints or their issues, and they talk to the reps over there, and they're like, हमें ये मसला है, we have this issue, we have that issue. And from what I've heard, most of them had a few issues with the state bank, and the fact that the state bank was there listening to them is comforting.
So yes, the State Bank of Pakistan. I think I think the leadership is good. Their heart is in the right place, and all those things that they have undertaken have significantly helped. Especially, I'm really looking forward to. I know Rast is right now in like a soft launch phase, and once it goes live, and I'm really excited about the fact that you could send money to people using just their phone numbers. I look forward to startups basically tapping into that and doing things, building on top of it and seeing where that goes. So that's really something I'm really excited about and looking forward to.
I I don't know if you've seen the thread by rogue economist Amar. He wrote a whole thread
Yeah.
on Rust and opportunities that are out there. And if startups just even look at that thread and take up ideas and start building apps or start building products, the number of ways that Rust can help the a normal investor, sorry, a normal individual is massive. And there's a right. I don't know. So I was speaking to someone, and they're like, "How do you see 2022?" And I was like, "Listen, I feel that because of Rust, 2022
Hmm.
is going to be a big year for the fintechs.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be big because there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I don't know. I'm just excited to see how startups tap into Rust.
So yeah, you touched on 2022. So what do you feel besides fintech? Where do you see things going in 2022 in terms of startup funding? Do you think it'll be more or less? Because we already heard about, like Prophet covered it, a month ago, about like how airlift might be raising, really huge round. So if airlift goes through with that round, that it's being people are the rumors are, it's in 300 million plus round.
I think the Sabzi wala is selling something outside.
Okay. So what do you feel like? Do you feel like we will get to like maybe 500 million or 600 million dollars in venture funding?
Okay, so this is a really this is a question that keeps a lot of people up at night. It doesn't keep me up. I sleep very peacefully knowing मुझे पैसे तो नहीं आ रहे ना.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't know, 300 million just coming in from airlift alone is big. If that comes in, that is bigger than all of almost as big as 2021 alone. If this happens, it's really exciting because it's going to give a huge signal that, you know what,
Yeah.
invest in Pakistan. So if that happens, it's going to be like, you know, a magnet effect. It's going to pull in more money into the system. So that's going to be exciting. What numbers do I see? I don't really know. And I don't think anyone can really tell you what they really see. But,
Okay.
the fourth quarter of 2021 was somewhat slow. So I expect like the first half of 2022 to be really bullish. Um,
Okay.
so there is that. I don't know. I think we're gonna cross maybe 600
600.
at least.
Okay.
I'm being very conservative. I'm being very conservative. Mera best chale, to I just go like, oh my god, we're gonna cross 900. But I just want
Yeah.
to be conservative right now because the macroeconomic environment right now isn't the best environment considering the rupee, depreciation, and considering the inflation issues that we have, that is eroding the consumer purchasing power in the country. So
Yeah.
if you're building something for Pakistani consumers that do not have enough purchasing power, that is important to keep into account.
So I would say 500 million. The only reason being, do you follow the US market, US stock exchange and markets? Yeah.
Somewhat.
So there
Somewhat.
has been, lately there has been like downtrend, and there's a lot, and the biggest, the companies that have suffered the most are all the tech companies. So it's one of those things where as long as money keeps coming in, the IPOs keep happening, and startups keep raising lots of money, then the funds keep investing, right? So it's like it's a snowball thing, right? It just keeps growing
Yeah.
and growing. So when that happens, where things slow down, I think it affects the overall market. So I feel like we would get to maybe 500, 550. But I think anything more than what we had in 2021 is, it's good,
Exactly.
right? So it's as long as it
Any
keeps
growth,
growing. Yeah.
any growth in a nice growth rate, a nice, and the thing is, let's say we have like a huge growth spurt, right, and we're not
Yeah.
able to maintain that growth, right, and next year,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just feel that whatever growth we have at this point should be sustainable. There will be a few months where the hype cycle of Pakistan is going to go down, like, there's the hype that we're getting may go down,
Yeah.
but it's 2022 is going to be good. It's we're going to cross what we reached in 2021 for sure. I'm
Yeah.
not scared of that. I'm not scared
Yeah.
of that at all. I don't know. I think the number of deals may be a little different. The number of deals may not grow to the same extent. Like like we saw them doubling in
Yeah.
2020 versus 2021. I don't see us going to like 160 deals though.
Pakistan, when I look at it from an outsider's perspective, any single time someone is taking a dump on startups, I always point out, like, hey, as long as they're hiring people, I don't care what they're doing.
Exactly.
As long
Yeah.
as they're hiring people and training them. It doesn't matter if the startup is not up to the mark, or it doesn't check all the boxes for wokeness. So people are like, oh, the wokeness always comes in. It's like this, they don't do this, they don't do that. Okay. So
I wanna add on this in the
yeah.
sense that when you look at the business schools in Pakistan, like you've got LUMS, you've got IBA.
Yeah.
Back in the day, everyone would be like, "Oh, once you graduate, you need to get a job at PNG or Unilever or one of
Nestle.
those FMCGs, Nestle, one of those
Nestle.
cigarette companies. Cigarette companies pay the best money. All right, that you sell your morality for the cigarettes, but you get the best money, right?"
Uh-huh.
And I'm saying this because I loved a cigarette company job. I
Uh-huh.
almost took it. So I was like, do I sell my soul? Do I not sell my soul? But the fact is, back then, everyone would be like, go into these FMCGs, go into these big banks, you're going to get a lot of money, right? But
Yeah.
now when the kids are leaving the university, they're really comfortable in joining a startup. All right.
Yeah.
This was not the trend a few years ago. And the very fact that, we're getting young talent into the startup web as well is really interesting, because these are the people that are going to learn from these startups and go on next 2 or 3 years and make their own. These are the people that are going to be, Kareem Mafia 2.0 from their own
Yeah.
startups.
Yeah.
So, the fact that the startups are a really good source of employment, and at the
Yeah.
same time, they're a really good incubation center for the mind.
Yeah.
And, moving on, more people are willing to join startups. It's a nice multiplier effect that we've got going.
Yeah, I think it's all good. Like the ecosystem has grown significantly, and everything that's happening is it's supposed to happen. And I'm like really hopeful, and that we would be, reaching to a point where we would become a large market for startups, for talent, for all those other things.
I'm saying this is our hashtag positive Pakistan podcast.
Yeah, yeah. So people, yeah,
We've been so positive.
I actually don't like when people say talk good things about Pakistan, and don't talk about, like, anything bad that's happening in Pakistan, because that's not the point. Uh, to show
I
people
agree.
that what's happening, you just have to show what's happening, right? Like, so let the work
Yeah.
do the talking. Like, don't tell people
Yes.
that we're doing great. Just show them we're doing great. So I think
Yeah,
that's the approach. At least with
absolutely. Like
startups, that's
I don't
been.
like the whole, stay positive. I like the stay truthful
Yeah.
side better than stay positive side.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
supposed to be black and white. You could have either or, right? Like, you could have
Yeah.
good things, you could have bad things, and it should be okay to criticize. But like, that's completely another
Yeah.
topic. So, anyways, so before I let you go, I always ask all my guests for like a book recommendation, a book you're reading right now, a podcast that you're listening to, or something that you have enjoyed in the past. Like, any recommendations, any media recommendations you have for us.
All right.
Any
So
movies you have seen, and anything on Netflix.
All right, so I'm the worst person to ask for Netflix recommendations, because there's not a single chick flick on Netflix that I have not seen. All right, I've
Okay.
I've seen all the English ones to the extent that I have moved on to different languages now, and I've seen all
Okay.
of them. I've seen the Spanish ones, I've seen the French ones, I've seen the African ones. I'm now on the
Okay.
Korean ones. So the
Okay.
worst person for Netflix, but I'm watching Manifest lately, and I'm on the
Okay.
third season, so I'm about to end that. It's too much, but like I'm so deep into it, I have to watch it now. But what
Yeah.
I'm reading,
So just
Ashka,
I
yeah,
yeah, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it just gets bad.
yeah, no, it's just getting, this is
Yeah.
it's
I
just
think first season
a
was the
misaal
best. I
ho
think they
gaya.
should have stopped at first season. Yeah. I think the first
Yes,
season was
we
the
should.
best, and they should have just stopped.
I मुझे जो है ना कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. I'm watching at 1.5 की speed and I'm forwarding through now. I just want to know how it ends now. That's it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just too deep into it. So there's that, but I haven't been reading a lot. But there's this book that I was given as a gift recently, and I hadn't read it, so I've started reading that. But I'm reading it really slow. It's been going on for like a month. It's Think Again by Adam Grant, I think, and
Okay.
it's a nice light read. It's not a heavy read. Like I can read like 3 pages, and 3 pages go for like one topic, and then I can stop. And then when I pick it up again, I don't have to remember what I read. So it's nice. It's about, there's so many things that you should just think about again in different ways, in different light. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going through this phase in my life where I'm thinking, re-looking at things, revisiting things, and looking at them in a different lens. So the book is actually really helping me do that. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a nice light read. It's an easy breezy read. It's not like a really intellectually smart book or something. Just give it a try.
Okay. Okay. So it's called Think Again, right?
Think Again by
Think Again
Adam
by
Grant.
Adam Grant. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on the Misal podcast. Appreciate your time, and
For
hopefully
having
we'll
me.
have you again. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you
And
so much. Thanks for listening to the Misal podcast. I hope you enjoyed the podcast and will thank me by writing a review or sharing it on social media. Make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks again. See you soon.